is the City of Frankfort Board of Commissioners November voting meeting. Today is November 27th. It's 5 p.m. And we'll begin with an invocation. We have Reverend Bill Kincaid from First Christian Church joining us. Please come on up. Yes. So we can hear you guys.
Let us pray. God of us all, we pause to give thanks for blessings and good fortune. Guide us to use all of them for the common good. We give thanks for all who call Frankfort home. We give thanks for all who serve the city and pray especially for those who have sought and gained positions in this body. Shape their leadership with your compassion, wisdom, fairness, and vision. We pray in love's many names. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. And while we're standing, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It looks like you haven't set up any HomeKit accessories. You can connect smart devices like lights, locks, and thermostats in the Home app.
Thank you, Siri. Again, I'm going to have to shut this down during meetings. Once was okay, but twice.
It's Cyber Monday, it's not that stuff, Mayor.
Everything I say in the mic, will it? Yeah.
Okay. And now we'll begin. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
Commissioner Unger. Present. Commissioner Waldridge.
Present.
Commissioner May.
Present.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Present. We'll begin with ceremonial and recognition. Does anyone have anything? Commissioner Walters.
I just want to first say, Reverend Kincaid and to the First Christian Church, thank you for all that you're doing for our community and bringing our community together on so many different levels. You've been really active. I know you held the 4 event the other day, Frankfort on Race Relations. It was a wonderful event, and just seeing some of the other items that are coming to our community through your church to help our children downtown in different schools. We appreciate you and all your efforts that you've given. So thank you, and to your congregation for all of the work and the kindness that you're spreading throughout our community. So thank you for coming today. Secondly, I just want to say it was a great Thanksgiving break. It was great weather. I'm not sure who ordered that, but it was great weather for that. And I just hope that everyone got to spend a great time with their family. And I just want to tell each and every staff member, team member, I'd rather not say staff member, but team member at the City of Frankfort, that we appreciate everything that you do day in and day out. We definitely want to send an extra appreciation to those that were working 24/7 that did not get to go home and spend time with their families in the police department, EMS, fire, and emergency management areas. We want to say thank you for continuing to work for our city through the holidays and keeping our community safe. And I think that our whole board would agree on that we appreciate our staff. So thank you so much. I'm grateful for my family and this community and being able to serve. So thank you so much.
Any other? Commissioner Unger.
I wanted to mention that the Frankfort Parks and Recreation was given an award for Outstanding Facility Award from the Kentucky Recreation and Park Society Awards night in Bowling Green. So that was all about the Thoroughbred Trail. So that's great for our parks and for our city. And I'm sure plenty of people enjoy that. So
Definitely.
Congrats.
Commissioner Thompson.
I just want to give special recognition to some young men and coaches and their families with the Franklin County High School football team. They won their 4th straight regional title, played in the state semifinals against perennial powerhouse Boyle County, who has been number 1 for 210 weeks, I think, now. And they are the 3-time defending state champion. And so the boys played hard, and they represented us very well. They're a young team and can't wait to see what happens next year. But more importantly, the coaches who are coaching those young men, I admire them greatly. They have set up opportunities for these kids to do a lot more than just play football. They met all of the elementary school kids at their the first day of school to help unpack them from their cars, and took pictures with them, and they also raised food for the homeless over the year. And this is not something the coaches are doing for themselves. This is to create good character in these young men. And so I want to congratulate not just the players, but especially those coaches, because if they had gone 2-10 and they're able to make good men out of these boys and young men, then it's all worth it. And all coaches should strive to make the youth of our community better. And I think these guys are doing it, and I am proud to call them friends, but also proud to call them Flyers. So I congratulate them, and I am thankful for a great year and not too many injuries, and we look forward to next year. Thank you, Mayor.
If no other, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Thank you, Alexis. First, we have Margaret O'Donnell, if you want to come up to the podium. I'll ask you to state your name and remind you that you have 5 minutes, and we'll give you a 1-minute warning.
I don't think I'll take 5 minutes. My name is Margaret O'Donnell, and I want to talk briefly on two things. One, a return to the discussion about the flock cameras. My understanding is that there has been an amended ordinance submitted, and I have been able to look at that a little bit. I also have communicated with the ACLU since I was last here a couple of weeks ago at the work session, and I would just like to be able to note a couple of concerns that they raised to me, just so that I can continue to put this issue forward and raise the concerns that I have. I still have the general concerns, but the ones that were specifically brought to my attention were the 30-day retention period. They suggested to me that a 14-day retention period of this data was a better time limit. They also have some questions about the looseness of some of the language, which leads a lot to be interpreted, the including but not limited to language. And my understanding is there's been some attempt to deal with that, but specifically, and I think this goes to the mayor's questions last time, the definition of a vehicle of interest should be limited to those things that are stated rather than leaving open to interpretation what else could fall within that. They also have indicated, and this addresses a concern about a focus on the most likely communities to be burdened by the cameras, that it be made clear that these should only be used in serious crime, serious lost people, just serious, not lower criminal activity. So I just state these things to show that, there is some effort from the ACLU understands that this is the technology that we have, and they are, my understanding, trying to work with the communities to make it as safe as possible. The other thing I want to bring up quickly is, and I don't want to talk about it in depth, but housing is like a huge priority for me. I was part of the group that helped the displaced people in the Peach Apartments. I continue to help them. I have landlords that contact me and say, can you help these people? We love these people, but they cannot afford to pay their rent. And, it's been 4.5 months since the housing study was issued. And, I know it's a tough thing to tackle, but we need to work on this issue in this community to make it safe for everyone who lives here. Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Reba Rye.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name's Reba Rye. I wanted to bring up the possibility of one action that the City Commission could take pretty quickly, it would seem, if they were in agreement to address at least a part of the housing shortage issues in Frankfort. It was discussed adding or amending the Fair Housing Ordinance to include non-discrimination based upon income, and this has been discussed at several public meetings I've been at, including the presentation of the housing study that was presented by the folks that did the study. Also, it was discussed in the last election cycle, asked about and inquired about at several forums, and I may be wrong, I often am, that I believe everyone on the commission now stated it in those forums that they would be interested in supporting or looking at or moving forward the idea of amending the Fair Housing Ordinance to include non-discrimination based upon income. And that seems like it could be relatively, I hate the term low-hanging fruit, but I think that it could go a long way. We all know that there's a good many folks who rent in Frankfort, landlords who will not take Section 8 and the other vouchers. And that's something that I would like to see before the next election. You know, this commission, which has said they were interested in doing that in past forums, I just kind of want to, in a friendly way, throw the gauntlet down and suggest that it would be a good idea to do. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll look into that. All right. And next, Delvin, also FAFA. Did I get it?
He's getting better, though.
That's the closest it's ever been.
Yeah, you get credit from me today, Mayor.
Thank you. You know the rules?
Yeah.
Just state your name.
Delvin also FAFA. And the first thing I want to do is to tender my resignation from the position of the Civil Service Board. I'm truly thankful to have served in this capacity, but since I filed to run for office, it's a direct violation if I continue to serve. Being that I wish to remain compliant, I urge this board to find a suitable replacement as soon as possible. If I were to offer any advice, I would hope the replacement is a former first responder. And again, I thank you for the appointment on the Civil Service Board. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure. I also would like to ask if at a future meeting this board could offer a moment of silence for the hostages in Gaza who are awaiting safe return to their families. And again, I thank you all for this opportunity for appointing me to the Civil Service Board. And that's the end of my comments for today.
Thank you, Delvin, for your service.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mayor, do you have a list of folks to consider for that position?
I don't know if we have any applications for that.
Not right now.
Okay. That will.
Right. You know, we don't have a backlog of applications for any of our boards.
A lot of people want to be
just so
on.
people
Yeah.
know. I guess we need to look at that, promoting that more. Okay, citizens' comments. Major Herron. If you want to come to the podium and state your name, and we'll give you 5 minutes, and we'll give you a 1 minute warning.
All right. How's everybody
Doing well.
Doing well, thank you.
Welcome.
It's my first time up here. My name is Major Herron. So greetings, City of Frankfort. My name is Major Herron, and I'm here to request support for an outreach engagement initiative for the youth of the state of Kentucky. Right, we would like to work with stakeholders, including Governor Beshear, in creating community liaison position to assist the city of Frankfort and its borders in reducing violence, to increase mental health wellness and job opportunities for transitional age youth. As the Kentucky administrator for the hip hop fraternity, it is imperative that we bridge the gap of youth in politics while increasing educational opportunities for the future. So to you all, the civic engagement will be at City Hall that I want to push for. For example, 40 selected students from marginalized communities are bused to City Hall once a week to learn firsthand city council and county business, either Wednesdays or Fridays, maybe from like 4 to 7. So the policy legislation courses would include Government 101, KY Youth Council, Government 102, who is our local governance, Senate, Assembly, and House Representatives, Government 103, State and Local Government, 104, Government Regulation of Business, 105, Youth Task Force Committees, and 106, Youth Civics. Funding source suggestions, that it's funded by the ARPA, the American Rescue Act, whereas according to the Kentucky Association of Counties, the counties will receive a direct allocation of approximately, what is this, $867 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, signed into law by President Biden on March 11, 2021. Whereas Frankfort, Kentucky, on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021, Brashears announced more than $157 million in funding for more than 360 non-entitlement cities in Kentucky from the American Rescue Plan Act. Whereas Kentucky is one of 22 states without an NFL team, right? The Cincinnati Bengals, which across the river and is the closest. And then I know that we had 2 teams in the 1920s, but that folded. So the primary course of action is that Frankfort officials commit to a civic engagement certification program that will qualify instructors to equip students within demand and high-tech skills, and as well as civic engagement.
Commissioner Thompson, we have a question for you.
I think it's fantastic. I love the idea that people are stepping up to assist marginalized youth and youth that are struggling with the possibility of graduating, not graduating, graduating, not having a job, graduating, not being able to get into school, graduating, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Skills and things of that nature. And I love the idea that you're going to teach them about government, and I love the idea that you have mentors who are willing to, and I assume these gentlemen with you are those guys who are willing to help these youth make some of those decisions and know that they're not alone and know that they can accomplish a number of things. I would suggest, even if ARPA funds are or are not available, and I think maybe that's a question that the mayor can have with the governor's office, that there are companies and there are folks in this town who would be more than willing to step up to financially support this endeavor. My company being one of them, and I know there are others. So thank you, first of all. This will only start and it will only work if the community gets behind it. And I thank you for taking the first step in doing this and doing your research. So thank you for doing that. And don't leave without me being able to get your information or give it to somebody in the back. Shelley will get the information. And
Definitely.
And we'll be in contact.
Yes, Commissioner Waters.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this information. And another suggestion would be to contact Frankfort High. They have a government program that is already sort of in place, that they go to the state capitol and things like that, so you may want to partner with them as well. The more people that partner, stronger it is for when we apply for grants. So that may be another place you want to hit up to get a hold of them, because I know I've spoken at their government group that they have at Frankfort High. So I know that they do several things like that as well.
Anybody specific that I should get in contact
I
with?
can't remember the young lady's name. I spoke about a year and a half ago at that event at Frankfort High. But I'd contact the president or the principal. She's amazing. And the superintendent, that's amazing. They should know who's over that program now.
Okay.
But it's just a way to help bring people in that. So maybe we could add some of these things that they're not covering onto that program, maybe expand that program for the whole entire community, not just Frankfort High. But if we're looking forward to some of that $867 million, it's always easier to get money when you have more people on board, like Frankfort Independent Schools, the city, the county, things like that are going to put their name on that grant to get more money. So, but thank you. It's a great idea, and that's why I like reaching out to the youth. So,
Appreciate it.
And if you wouldn't mind, Alexis back there, if you could get his information, that way we'll have it. And I think maybe this seems like something worthy of more discussion, and maybe we can give you more time, or we can get more information about it, and at least help you spread the word.
Okay.
and give you some resources that if we're not the entity to help do it, then we can at least connect you with those who can. So it's this is the place to come. So you did the right thing coming here.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
And bringing the guys with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Major. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Consent calendar, item number 1, minutes, work session October 9th, 2023, regular meeting October 23rd, 2023. Item number 2, truck 58 body repair for solid waste. Solid Waste Division is seeking approval for the needed repairs for truck 58 and for the mayor to sign all related documents. The cost will be $39,015.50. No budget impact as funds were already available. Item number 3 is Motorola Solutions body-worn cameras for the police department. Police department requests authorization to purchase 5 body-worn cameras and enter into a 5-year agreement with Motorola Solutions, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. The first year cost of $4,140 will be made using funds from asset forfeiture. Item number 4, firearms and ammo trade for credit, police department. Staff requests authorization for the police department to surplus outdated firearms and ammo that are no longer in use and trade these firearms to Kessler Police Supply for store credit. The trade-in value of these would be $17,345. Staff recommends surplus and trade of the firearms and ammo and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I have a question about that, but I can hold it to the end if you prefer, Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, item number 5, 2024 Parks Department fees and rates. Staff seeks approval for proposed rates for the Parks Department for 2024. The Parks Advisory Board reviewed and discussed the rates and voted unanimously for the proposed rates for 2024. The proposed rate increases were recommended for youth sports from $70 to $75, aquatic center private party rentals from $575 to $625, so up $50, and for select picnic shelters that have undergone recent renovations, a cost increase of $10. Staff recommends the Board of Commissioners approve the 2024 rates. AC machine purchase request for the garage. Staff is requesting the Board of Commission approve to purchase a new AC machine that can be used on all vehicles regardless of the type of Freon. And the mayor to sign all related documents. The Polartec dual AC machine costs $15,795. Funding for this purchase was not included in the fiscal year 2024 budget. If approved, a budget amendment may be required. Item number 7, 2023 roadway restoration unit price contract extension. Staff seek Board of Commissioner approval to extend the 2023 unit price contract for roadway restorations for an additional year and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. The proposed unit price for calendar year 24 will increase 3% due to material, equipment, and labor increases. There is money budgeted for this. There's $131,000 that remains unspent, and Public Works will respend the remainder of that budget for this fiscal year. Item number 8 has been removed. Item number 9, professional service contract with QK4 Incorporated for construction administration for Broadway replacement construction in sewer department. They request the mayor sign all related documents to this. This project is a capital improvement plan and will be budgeted for construction in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. Staff recommends the mayor and the Board of Commissioners approve the professional service contract with QK4 for $60,000. Brick Mural, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Staff recommend approval and payment of $75,000 to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for a Section 4A alteration in support of the Brick Mural project and for the mayor to sign all related documents. This project is in the capital improvement plan and will be budgeted for construction in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. And the Corps of Engineers has to sign off on this project and has requested $75,000 for that. T-Mobile Cell Tower Site Lease Agreement Amendment. Staff requests approval of a second amendment to the T-Mobile Cell Tower Site Agreement. The original lease and its renewal are set to expire in January of 2024. The city has negotiated an increase from the original rental amount of $12,000 annually to $27,000 annually. These lease terms in the original agreement, in that the initial term is for 5 years with 4 5-year renewal terms. The rent will escalate by 15% at the beginning of each renewal term. Staff recommends the Board of Commissioners approve the second amendment to the T-Mobile Cell Tower site. Item number 12, 2023 Brick Grant Riverbank Stabilization. Staff requests approval to apply for a 2023 brick grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for riverbank stabilization in the amount of $5 million and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents. The FEMA brick program does require a match of up to 25%, which would be a $1.25 million match if awarded. Item number 13 is personnel actions. We have a transfer, Cameron Bingham, Sewer Department. Date of 11/7/23, Public Works Tech, Solid Waste to Sewer Tech. Appointment of Danny Hillard, Police Department, November 8th, 2023, Patrol Officer. Resignation of Vicki Jones, Transit, 11/15/23, Administrative Aid, authorized payout of accrued leave. Promotion, Judd Ellis, IT Department, 11/7/23, IT Deputy Director to IT Director. Termination of Sonia Upton, Transit, October 26, 23, Dispatcher. Termination of Aaron Fennell, Solid Waste, 11/3/23, Public Works Tech Solid Waste. Appointment Eugene Carr, Transit, 11/14/23, Transit Driver. Appointment Christopher McKinney, Solid Waste, 11/14/23, Public Works Solid Waste. Resignation of Daniel Josh Bullard, Police Department, Detective, 11/8/23, authorized payout of accrued leave. Resignation of Kevin Lilly, Transit, 11/3/23, Transit Driver, authorized payout of accrued leave. Resignation of Jonathan Adam Wright, Solid Waste, Public Works Tech, Solid Waste, 11/20/23. Appointment of Keegan Harrell, Police Department, 11/21/23, Patrol Officer. Appointment of Patricia Hamilton, Police Department, 11/21/23, Community Policing Advocate. Promotion of Mike Bosley, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant. Promotion of Stephen Gullery, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant. Promotion of Andre Stock, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant. Promotion of Kelby Hickey, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant. Promotion of Max Davis, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Fire Sergeant to Fire Captain. Promotion of Gary Wilkerson, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Fire Sergeant to Fire Captain. Promotion of Matt Stevens, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant. Promotion of Cody Spalding, Fire and EMS, 11/7/23, Firefighter to Fire Sergeant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar without number 8, action item number 8, right?
Correct.
And we have a motion and a second, and Commissioner Thompson, you have a question? Or
Yes,
discussion?
just regarding item number 4. Sorry, Chief, you know, I always have to call you up for some question, right? My question is about Keesler Police Supply. I see that that's it says in here that that's the state contract holder. Is that a state bid process, or is that somebody we go through to, or how does that work? Because I just want to make sure that we're following everything we need to do with.
Yeah, this has been the same process we've done for probably 3 or 4 or 5 years now
Okay.
that I know of. But they are the ones, as far as bids go.
Okay.
They're the ones that hold the state contract.
Okay, so there's only one option. That's how we would do it, no matter what.
And they
Okay.
honestly, we've been doing business with them for years.
Okay.
And they give us quite the best prices that you can find.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion on this consent calendar? If not, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Unger,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Yes, and the consent calendar is adopted.
Mayor.
Next, yes, Commissioner Weldon.
We just went through the consent, and we have with us Patricia Hamilton, who was appointed the Community Policing Advocate, and I'd like her to come forward to introduce herself to our community, who will be working with our community more. Shelley, you want to come forward and say a few things? I know that there are several of us that was pushing for this and putting this on this year to get this done, and we've been supporting you and getting raises where they needed to be in your area, and we all support the advocating for our community. So this little guy can't hold on any longer. He's done really well.
So my name's Trisha. I go by Trisha Hamilton. This is my son Xavier. He's 6 months old yesterday. I'm really excited to serve the community. I have done various number of things in my career. I worked for DCBS here in Franklin County for 6.5 years. And then I did some case management and substance use counseling in between there and here. And so I have my temporary drug and alcohol counseling certificate. So that's something that I hope to help with. I know we have a lot of folks that have substance use needs, and then the DCBS experience I hope will help as well.
I just appreciate you all giving the effort to put towards another position, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been a lot. And having her here just for the little time that she's been here already has already lifted a huge burden. And I know that I can be very confident in her skills and expertise, because she has already nailed a bunch of things for us. So I do appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here.
Commissioner Thompson.
First of all, Ms. Hearn thought she was going to have a real easy job when she came to work here. thought this was going to be a cakewalk, I think. I'm just teasing. And Ms. Hamilton, I don't know you very well. I look forward to getting to know you. Actually, we've known each other for a long time. I am very pleased that you are with the city now. I have full confidence, as Shelley said, that you will make an impact on the community. Thank you for being an impact on your community, because I know you grew up here too, and your family is very well established here, and so this means a lot to you as well. So having that buy-in means a little bit. So thank you for joining us, and I thank you for bringing a little one.
Of course.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I love to have a baby in the chambers.
All right, now next we'll move on to boards and commissions. We have one. It's the Architectural Review Board. This is an appointment of Jane H. Goddard, filling a vacant term, the preservation slot that expires September 12th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion on this one?
Call for voice vote.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries. So thank you, Jane, for your willingness to serve. We'll move on to action items. A second reading to start us off.
An ordinance rezoning property located on Warsaw Street with the address of 521 Warsaw Street, more specifically described as PVA map number 0614406-017, from industrial commercial district to limited commercial district. This ordinance approves a zone map amendment for the property with the address of 521 Warsaw Street, more specifically described as PBA map number 0614406-017, from industrial commercial district to limited commercial district.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the second reading for this rezoning request?
Can I ask, I've read this, but I just want to make sure. The purpose of this rezoning is to establish additional area for, sounds like CRM to be able to utilize this area as a storage and staging area. Is that correct?
Yeah, the use wasn't an issue for them for what they wanted to do. The problem was the bulk density and height requirements for the existing zoning just essentially made the lot useless. Once you shrunk the area down to meet all those requirements, you'd be lucky to have a shed on it.
Yeah.
So this will allow them a bit more flexibility and to get a building, I think, the size that they can actually utilize for what they need it for.
How big is the building that they're wanting to put?
They haven't turned in plans yet.
Okay. And how many? What's the square footage of the lot?
3,081.
Thank you. I'm looking at the letter, but I couldn't find it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's about 3,000 square feet.
Okay. Was it there? Well, since they didn't have a problem with the use, I won't question it. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions for Eric, who's right here? If none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Thompson?
I will vote yes.
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes, and that motion is adopted. Action item number 2, another second reading.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 12, 2023 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city of Frankfort for the fiscal year 2023-2024. This ordinance amends ordinance number 12, 2023 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city for fiscal year 23-24 by adding the following expenditures and transfers as noted. General Fund, $1,152,147. Transfers from General Fund, $500,312 to capital improvements. Capital improvements, $500,312. Sewer Fund, O&M, $98,500, all of which are aggregate totals. And by adding the following revenue and transfers as noted above, General Fund, $1,551,000, aggregate total.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions or comments? Seeing none or hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes, motion carries. Action item number 3, first reading. Seeking a sponsor.
I'll sponsor it.
This is sponsored by Commissioner Thompson.
An ordinance of the City of Frankfort, Kentucky establishing procedures for use and regulation of license plate reader technology and data. This ordinance adopts a new section of Chapter 40 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances governing use and regulation of license plate reader systems and data. The ordinance establishes defined terms, sets forth both authorized and specifically unauthorized uses, creates a process for administration and operation of the system, establishes procedure for data collection and release, and establishes penalties for violations of the ordinance.
Any discussion on this? Commissioner Unger?
Can you explain some of the edits and additions?
Sure.
Right.
So based on the comments, based on the questions raised by the board and those from the public, I went through, worked with the city manager, assistant city manager, and chief of police to add in some language which we hope will strengthen some of the protections in the ordinance and limit concerns about misuse. Some of those being that the terms that said including but not limited to regarding hits and hot lists and vehicles, factors not specifically set forth in the ordinance now have to be authorized in writing by the chief of police so that we will have that record. It's put in a lot on the chief to make sure that there's that ultimate accountability at the top. Then we also went through the data search and audit section, and for the internal audit that's going to be conducted quarterly, we added that the sampling use shall be random, and we also added a second individual besides the local administrator it would be a designee of the chief of police to also do an audit. So we'll have two going on at once. And then the last thing we did was to make sure that when sergeants and supervisors are reviewing hot lists and revising their hot list entries, all of those changes and adjustments do have to be entered by the administrator. So those were some just clarifications and tightening up that we hope will make a difference.
Thank you.
I guess, did we look at, somebody mentioned earlier about the 30-day time period and 14-day time period. Is that something, I guess, what other communities are doing something shorter than? Are there other communities doing something shorter than
that I've
30
seen
days?
myself? No, the 30 days was the standard practice of the timeline that was set.
That's actually what the National Police Organization, I don't know what their exact title is, but that's what they also recommended as well.
There's a reasoning for it, and there's a reason for that. That's and I appreciate you all going back and tightening it up even more. So, any other discussion or questions? If not, we can move on to the next. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
Another first reading, action item number 4, seeking a sponsor.
I'll sponsor.
This is Commissioner Waldridge.
An ordinance amending section 52.45 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances regarding local limits for the sewer pretreatment program. This ordinance amends section 52.45B4 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances to update the local maximum daily pollutant limits for the sewer industrial wastewater pretreatment program.
Any discussion on the first reading? Seeing none, we'll move on to action item number 5.
The surplus vehicle order for solid waste. The Division of Solid Waste has a 2003 Chevrolet pickup truck with over 120,000 miles and needing repairs and has significant rust throughout the truck. This truck was replaced with a smaller pickup truck, and they would like the staff recommend the pickup truck to be declared surplus property and for the mayor to sign all related documents. Now, the vehicle will be sold online auction and the proceeds returning to the general fund.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion or questions, comments? Not. I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes, and that motion carries. Action item number 6.
Federal Transportation Alternative Program Grant, cancellation of contract with Signs, etc. August 25th, 2023. Bid opening downtown wayfinding project contract cancellation and resolution. Staff recommends to receive, file, and adopt the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Yes, just briefly.
Commissioner Thompson.
I see that we are we're canceling the approved contract, or rescinding it or whatever, and then we're turning around and signing a new contract with the same company, correct?
Correct.
And is there anything besides timing and cost that is requiring us to do this?
I'll let Chuck explain. He's a little more versed at it.
Thank you, Chuck.
This project's been a challenge.
We know.
We tried to bid it twice as both a fabrication installation project, and we got 0 bids both times we bid. So Transportation Cabinet allowed us to break the fabrication and installation into 2 separate projects, so we did that. We got a fabrication contractor who turned out with Signs, etc. They were the low bidder on that project, and they were awarded the contract. So they've been fabricating signs all this past calendar year. They're ready to deliver those, and so we thought we'd go ahead and get an installation contract in place. So we bid it with a bidding date of August 23rd. Is that what it says? And they were the only bidder, and they were a reasonable bid, but the Transportation Cabinet According to their guidance, they rejected that bid because signs, etc., bid zero on one of the bid items and instead of a penny. And so then they made us kick that out. So we rebid it for November 1st. What was it? Third, thank you. So we rebid it, and we got one bid, signs, etc., same bid price, but they did put a value in each of the bid items. So Transportation Cabinet has approved to award that project, so we recommend the city sign that contract.
So it's 1 penny.
1 penny on that one.
More on
Yeah,
that one
yeah.
thing that we have to.
Yeah.
Thanks, KYTC.
Anything
Thank
else
you.
on that?
That's all.
I appreciate the detail.
I would like to say, I know that we have wayfinding issues, and we talked about what that is, but at some point, I would really like to discuss the large sign in downtown that lists every single bourbon distillery within 100 miles, except for the ones that are actually in Frankfort. And that's I think that's a wayfinding issue, and I know that doesn't fall under this because it's not fabrication, but it's a good time to bring that up, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
That contract that you're going to approve tonight, if you do so, has a completion date of late May. So hopefully we have all these wayfinding signs up before the tourist season.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
And that will be all of them, right?
Yeah, that would be all of
the
them.
completion.
That'll be all of them.
I think
That's
the
right.
wayfinding plan was November of 2014 when it was originally adopted. So that would be within 10 years.
$300,000, yeah.
No, but we appreciate it. Now seeing it on this side now, I realize why sometimes these things take longer than.
Yeah, they do. Well, Rebecca
understand.
Hall's been given a lot of support for this. I mean, she started this project, and I got involved, and so we're going to get it done.
We thank you.
Yes,
Thanks for your help.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote on this one.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes, and that motion carries. And action item number 7.
Downtown Frankfort Wayfinding Sign Project, Federal Transportation Alternative Programs Grant, installation contract with signs, etc., and resolution. Staff suggests receive, file, and adopt resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Commissioner Thompson.
It's my understanding that the estimated cost and scope of work on this particular project, are we on 7 or 8?
Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Decline for 1 penny?
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes, and that motion carries. Action item number 8.
Transit Center Parking Garage Project, Independent Construction Material Sampling and Testing, Patriot Engineering and Environmental Incorporated Agreement, Amendment Number 1, and Resolution. So if you've all read this, we can let Chuck kind of jump into this if you have questions.
Any motion?
Oh, motion to approve.
Okay, motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Okay, any discussion? Commissioner Thompson?
Hey, so this is what I want to talk about. So it's my understanding that the initial scope of work that Patriot Engineering, Chuck told us was going to be about $58,946. Sound right? And that they thought that now, based upon the boring that was done, and they found that the footer was bigger than it was. Is that the main problem that we have here with this, or is this?
What, of course, this is a federal project, and both Transportation Cabinet and Federal Transit Administration require a third-party independent to do material sampling and testing to ensure, of course, that they're getting their money's worth in the concrete and the steel and everything that's done in building that project. So we sat down and, of course, we put out RFP for professional services. Patriot was awarded the contract, and we negotiated with them what we thought at the time was going to be, it's a line item contract, so they only get paid for whatever they do. We thought that $58,000 or $60,000 was going to be an initial amount that we would look at, but they've already I'd say, worked more on the grout or the concrete that was used to build the foundation, the concrete columns that go down the bedrock. They tested those because every time there's a quantity of concrete that comes on a job site, Patriot is there to sample and test it before they actually use it. And they did that probably more trips of concrete than was anticipated. So the small amounts required Patriot to be there. So they kind of overdid that particular activity, but they're supposed to be there. And so we don't have much choice on that. So I asked him to look at the remaining work. We talked with Messer, we talked with TRC based on their experience with these projects, and they thought we probably should increase it to about $135,000 total to get the project done.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. At one point on October 24th of 2022, last year, little over 14 months ago, or a little over 13 months ago, the board approved an agreement with Patriot Engineering and Environmental Inc. to perform the third-party work for material sampling. Essentially, when stuff comes on to the site, they would sample it, correct?
Correct.
And that agreement was based on a preliminary estimated scope of work of $58,946.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Who came up with that number, $58,946?
That was, I guess, TRC and myself sat down with Patriot after they were recognized as the best firm to go with. And between the three of us, we talked about what we thought that would take to get the project done. But as you obviously can see, that wasn't near enough. So it's myself, TRC, and Patriot.
Has the design of the parking structure and transit center significantly changed since October 24th, 2022?
No.
Is there a reason that they are 150% off in their estimate? I mean, they're asking.
Well, other than the fact that the prosecution of the work has taken place, and Messer brings material on the site, and whether they're doing pouring 10 cubic yards or what they're pouring here now with these large deck pours is 300 cubic yards. The small amounts of concrete required them to test, even though that it would have been nice if Messer could have used a little more concrete in larger pours each day, but that's just the way the project has progressed.
I understand, and I hold no fault on anyone from the city, because we are at the mercy of the professional knowledge and expertise of groups like TRC, Worldwide Engineering, Patriot, Messer, but just 2 months ago, I said, or 3 months ago, I said, if we start talking about, and even when we first started talking about the epoxy stuff at the beginning of this year, once we start, increasing these amounts that we're willing to pay towards this, I know it's only $76,000, but we're already almost $6 million into this thing that the city's going to have to pay. My problem is that I understand that it's costing Patriot to do this, and if I was Patriot, I'd be all over Messer, to be quite honest with you. Why can't you, we only have up to this amount, and these groups need to work together. Problem is, I have a feeling they're working together in another way, which is to increase everybody's bottom line, and I think that not only slows the project down, it costs us more, and I think we're being strong-armed, just like we were with the epoxy, and I'm frustrated beyond belief. I mean, I can't believe that somebody would come in, negotiate a contract with us, and then come in and ask for 150% more than what that contract originally was. That's absurd in any profession, and I I honestly can't in any way agree to this because they have a contract, and they had a contract that they agreed to. There was a meeting of the minds, and if they don't want to do it, then I think we have a right under our obligations to force them to comply with the terms of that contract. But I am just tired, Mr. Knowles, of people, coming to the city and asking us for a blank check. And I feel like that's what is happening in this project. And this is no knock on you. This is this project in general, and it's all projects. And this is a situation where they went from a 0.5% of the total value to now 1.2% of the total value. I mean, they went up 7% of the total value of the entire project, or 0.7% of the total project, 0.7%. And I think they see a blank check and a big bank and deep pockets and are asking us for more money. I cannot support this in any way.
Well, as I said, that's a line item contract. If they do 4 tests, they get paid for 4. If they do 12, they get paid for 12. And what's happened is they've run a lot of tests, and they've run through that initial amount, and we have to provide that sampling and testing through the rest of the project. So I don't see many options here, but that's, I guess, an unexpected expense increase. No,
Sure.
I understand that, but we're not in a position here to either alter their contract or refuse to pay them for the remainder of the contract because that probably would stop the project.
But don't we have a contract?
We do. We have a line item contract, and what we did was we misjudged the quantity of how many tests would be run for concrete, how many tests would be run for grout, those types of things. We just underestimated those.
You would agree with me, though, that TRC and Patriot are the experts in that area, right? I mean, they know what it's going to take to have those done, right?
Right, and that's why I went back to TRC and asked them typically, and I didn't do this early on, typically what would it cost for a project of this size is to perform the sampling and testing on materials, and they said roughly 1% and maybe 0.25% for contingencies, that things that occur that you don't expect. So we're at 1.2% right now with this increase that we're proposing.
Attorney Milam, are we without options here? I mean, what does our original contract say regarding who will have to pay for what and when?
Without it in front of me, I can't answer exactly, but I can definitely take a look and report back to you guys, but I'll need to get the total contract in front of me and look at our options.
We don't have that. Does anybody have, was that in our stuff?
No.
I didn't see it.
So, a quick question. So it sounds like Messer should have been involved in that initial discussion with TRC and Patriot because it's really they're doing more testing because Messer is pouring it a different way than they anticipated.
Well,
is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and I guess that might be where we maybe left out enough information as to Messer how they were going to prosecute the project, the number of pours, the size of the pours, that type of thing up front.
And is there any way to limit the number of tests that Patriot does going forward? Can we tell them, look, minimize this? Don't you only do what's absolutely necessary. You don't over. I don't know how it works, but
right. Well,
are we sure they're not?
They're
only testing the bare minimum. That they have
the early stages of the project, the foundation, the walls, some of the early piers that went up. It just required a lot of small pours. Now we're getting into these large deck pours, or 250, 300 cubic yards, and then of course Patriot shows up and tests that. But it's not like those large pours are done within like 6 to 8 hours. Whereas in one day they'll take 10 yards to pour some piers or columns. Some days they'll take 10 yards to do some walls. So it's just we're getting into the larger pours, which is probably going to require less testing. And Patriot is already committed to try to limit the cost of their people and travel time and then the number of tests as the project finishes up. So we've probably spent about maybe $3 million on construction so far, and we're through Patriots and almost through their initial $58,000. But then they expect to finish the next $7 or $8 million worth of contract work, and just with using the $76,000 increase for the contract. So Patriot understands this is it. They've got to manage themselves.
But it's not, though. I mean, they can always come back because they know that it's a federal project and they know that we have to do this. So there's nothing that says that this is it. And I mean, we dealt with epoxy, we dealt with firewall issues. Now we're dealing with material testing. I mean, it just seems like, in the design of these things, in the engineering and with Messer, that we just never got the full story, and now we're having to pay these amounts, and I have no doubt that they are saying we're going to do what we can to lower the costs, but nobody else is. I've never in my life heard of a builder or a construction developer, leave money on the table, and I don't think this is the last. I didn't say it when it was epoxy, and I don't think it's now. It's not the last time that people are going to come to us and ask for more money on this project.
Commissioner Waldridge.
I just wanted to add, and I'm not an engineer by all means, but I like to listen, take it in, and try to understand it. So they were at the 15,000 at the beginning, and they did an increase of a little over 76,000. So how many pours? Because you were stating that the reason different pours happened because there were smaller pours, then there were larger pours, and it was a little bit. But then you just said that they are saying now, moving forward, we're going to have probably much larger pours now because we're in some of the bigger areas.
Right.
So less testing. So why is there less testing for the bigger pours now moving forward, but it cost us 150% more? When I'm looking at 76,000, how many pours do they, want out of the 76,000, and how is it 76,000 versus the 15,000 for the first few pours that they thought would cover the whole project? 58.
58, not 50.
Sorry, I said 50. 58. Sorry. So if they move it up and now it's 76, how are they managing that? When you said that they're saying that there may be less pours because there's bigger, it wouldn't be 150%, would it? Why is that?
Within that initial amount of $58,000, they did all the foundation, all the lower level columns, walls, and going to be 2 of the 9 major pours within that 58,000. So that leaves 7 large pours and the rest of the columns on the upper tiers, and that's pretty straightforward. I mean, like I said, it's not how much concrete you bring on it that needs to be tested. It's if concrete shows up one day, if it's 10 yards or 300 yards, Patriot will test it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's less, I guess, sampling and testing required for the larger pours, but every time they show up on site with concrete, Patriot has to test that.
And I understand that's on the safety on how the concrete forms and is firming in that to make sure that we don't have an issue later on in the years of it crumbling or coming down. So I get that. I guess serving as long as I have too, there's been so many different contracts over the years that the city has agreed on, and I just feel as Commissioner Thompson shared, and I've shared it before in other meetings, that I feel like we're a commission that people know that they could really underbid us, and we don't really do much about it. We just continue to sign off on increases, and I hate that we continue to go down that road. I know this is a project we have to get done, but I feel like that our price tag on this project continues to increase and increase. This is something that I think that we needed to try to get our population, downtown, to get that area growing and some other things down there for our downtown. But it's really putting us in a hole as increases. And what happens if they bring in these concretes and then they come back for another percentage in that raise. Is that something that could be a possibility that they're going to come back for another increase?
I don't, part of that total 135,000 or the increase in 76,000, Patriot included some like 10% contingency in there. So they've already put a little buffer in there if something like that were to occur. Let's look at the big picture here. So far this project, the base bid was $10.5 million. And we've added about 3.6% in changes that the city commission or the board of commissioners wanted, like the glass enclosed staircase, like the concrete design features on the Clinton Street side. So 3.6% increase in the project is a result of what the BOC wanted, and I think that was exciting. I think that facade is really going to be a knockout when we get done with it. Another 3.6% above the base bid included other changes that have been approved. Epoxy coated steel, deck washing capability, those types of things. So you have a total of about 7.2% over the base bid, and this project had no contingencies built in it. Typically what somebody would do is take a project bid and they would add contingencies to that on the front end, knowing stuff was going to happen, changes were going to happen. But this wasn't done, so there was no contingency. So every time we came to the BOC to request approval of a change, you know, it seemed like that this thing's going up in cost. But a total of 7.2% increase over base. Most industries, they'll set up a 10% contingency account or amount. So we're at 7.2%. I think we're doing pretty well on this size of our project. The other part was the engineering between TRC and Patriot with the additional increase we've asked for. That's going to be another 7% over the base 10.5 million. So between the 7.2 and the 7% engineering, we're at 14.2%, which is well within reasonable range of engineering contingencies for the size of a project. So sometimes it feels like, you know, we're going way overboard here, but we're well within what's to be expected on this type of project and the size
So
of the
you would
contract.
say instead of us putting it on the front end, we're just doing it as we go,
Yes.
as long as we stay
Yes.
underneath of that
Yes.
10% for these kind of changes, and then underneath of with the engineering, the 7% also from the engineering, as we're staying pretty close to that 10%.
Right. I mean,
it's not going to be a huge.
You know, we could have taken the $10.5 million and immediately added another million plus.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that would have gone over either.
Well,
So,
but
you know,
at the
I
same
mean,
at the same time, I mean, Chuck, to be fair, $1.491 million, which is what 14.2% of the 10.5 is. I mean, adding $1 million at the front end would have made people just as happy to have this project as they are anyway. But now I will say that adding 1.5 on the back end is going to make folks even more frustrated. And honestly, I don't really blame them. I mean, I think that the contingencies, I think there were reasons that the contingencies weren't built in the front to make this palatable, or even somewhat palatable, knowing that at the back end of this there was going to be a whole bunch of money added to it. And this is no different than the police station across the street, where you just had, you know, one thing after another added onto it. And so we've seen this movie before, and it, you know, we're not done yet. I mean, we're clearly not done yet with the project. And being at 14.2% right now, you know, when you just use a number like that and say that it's, you know, but that's $1.5 million to a city that is, you know, hoping that we will be able to, you know, balance our budget just like we did last year, and that's a lot of money. And so, again, this is no knock on Chuck Knowles. I'm not upset with you. I'm upset with the process by which we went through to now say, well, we didn't put it at the front end, but we're putting it on the back end so that, you know, we could sell the project, I think that makes it worse. I think that's not being upfront and transparent with the community, knowing that these were coming. And just like everything else, I'll vote no on this, and it'll likely pass, but it's just more money on this project that I couldn't find. I could find more people in Sodom and Gomorrah that were good people than people who like the idea of this parking structure in Frankfort. So,
may I clarify something? That
Yes, and I have a
10%
question,
contingency I just mentioned, that was for project changes. That didn't include the engineering. When you add engineering
Right, it's
contingencies
14%.
to this kind of project, you're talking 15 to 20%. So, we're doing all right. I mean, all projects have to deal with those types of changes in cost. And we could have added all that up front with the initial request for approval on Messer's contract, and it would have been $12 million or more. So,
Is it possible that by not putting it in at the front and having to approve it along the way, we've saved money on this total project cost?
Be careful, Chuck.
Yeah,
He's setting you up.
objection.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, it's just, but, it's possible that we've saved money because we had a lower upfront and they knew they were going to have to come back and ask approval for these changes, so
But we've approved
it makes it harder. I know politically, we have to vote on it every time, but still, I think it makes it harder for them to come and ask us for an increase on every little thing.
Well, I think that's true, because there's no preset amount as to how much we're willing to, pay for contingencies or engineering. They're having to come back and we argue with them and ask them to cut things out here and we told them forget one change order, we weren't even going to entertain them. So, yeah, I think it makes it a little tougher rather than them having some set amount out here that they think, we're going to be able to approve over time.
Another question, so it sounds like, we had a line item, so they're getting billed when they do the work.
Correct.
So if they had no other testing, that they're finished, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
So there's no set contract, but you said earlier that the 135, they know that that's it. Now, but it would still be a line item, right? So
yes,
if there was that one more test that had to be done for this thing to fly, we would have to approve it, though, wouldn't we? And even if that.
Well, but as I mentioned, they've built in about a 10% contingency for the amount that they gave us, the 135. So they maybe expect to go over a little bit, but it's built into that $135,000. And I've told them this is it, we're done. So they're going to have to manage it a little bit better. But a lot of that's driven by how Messer prosecutes the contract or the project. And like I said, it's going to go to these big pours and get away from all these little pours to where it requires paper to be on the job site every day. Concrete truck shows up.
So if this does not get approved right now, what exactly will happen? Work stop tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
So, would you say that with the 135, I'm understanding you that now they have increased to cover the rest of the testing.
Yes.
That now involves a 10%, you're saying?
That includes.
That includes,
Yeah,
right.
They took what they thought it was going to take to finish the project. And
Plus 10%, so they wouldn't be coming back to us. So we really shouldn't be seeing them anymore.
They added a funding contingency to their.
But back to
amount,
what the mayor was sharing, if there's one more, then they would be coming back to us. So I think that there needs to be a conversation with them and Messer, so they're on the same time. So our community, our city dollars are being protected and used wisely, so they don't come back for that extra testing, maybe over 135. I think that conversation needs to happen, and I think that we should ask for that conversation to happen, saying, if we approve this and this is what we're approving, you guys need to communicate to make sure it falls within this amount, because we're not
Well, we have our bi-weekly meeting with Messer and Patriot and everybody else tomorrow morning. I'll make sure that they understand that.
Okay.
Can the mayor and Commissioner Waldridge or somebody be present for that?
Anybody's welcome.
I have to be in court, but I.
What time is it tomorrow?
9 o'clock.
It's possible. Somebody can. If one or two want to go.
We're welcome.
No other objection to it.
At 9 o'clock at the construction trailer on site. So if somebody wants to.
I'm not sure yet, but one other question. So, well, Commissioner Unger asked that what happens if we don't approve it? We don't have until next meeting to decide this, right? It's a kind of a, that answers that. I guess, obviously, this is something that, to Commissioner Thompson's point, that I do think there are a lot of people that want this site developed. They may not want a parking garage, but they want the site developed. They want downtown Frankfort revitalized. They want a new neighborhood there. That's what they're expecting, and this garage, this transit center is what's going to make that happen. And it's probably the reason for the hotel press conference about a month ago, because of that being sold, because of that parking structure. It relieved the restrictions on that property for the state to allow that to be sold. So I just don't know what we're supposed to do about it, but approve it. And now in the grand scheme of things, it's a nominal amount of money. It's tens of thousands of dollars, but I think that if that is what makes this project go, and we're fulfilling the obligation that we agreed to when we asked the federal government for help to build a transit center, and we went to them with our hand out. We said we needed it. We agreed to it, and now we got to pay for it. But we're going to get the added benefit of that area being developed. So.
Well, we all understand it with completion of the garage transit center that hotel patrons can begin parking in that garage, and parcel C becomes wide open. So,
any other discussion or questions for Mr. Knowles? But again, thank you for your work on this and being down there every day. You're around it every day, I know.
Excuse me. You can have my water if you like.
My water.
I try to go over there every day. Just to let them know we're watching.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for a vote to approve.
Commissioner Thompson?
No, and I'd like to explain my vote. The city has asked for, in my estimations, around 775,000 additions, and engineering has asked for $715,000. I'm not sure where the firewalls, the footers, all the other things that have come to us and asked us for money, and every time they come and ask us for money, it is, we have to do it. Nobody's forcing us to do it, but we have to do it because it can't wait till the next meeting. We don't even have the contract, the original contract in front of us to determine, what it said and whose obligation was if it went over. This project is an obscene amount of money at this point. I know that $76,000, I am offended that we would say that's a nominal amount of money. When we represent individuals in this community that's 3 years of their salary, and I am tired of being strong-armed and bullied into paying more money at the last second because they say, well, work would stop tomorrow if we don't do this. Well, work would stop, and they wouldn't get paid for the rest of the contract that they have as well, and they have contractual obligations to fulfill just like we do. But our only contractual obligation is to write those checks every week, and they're just happy to up those amounts. At this point, I think it was an original $10.5 million. We are now pushing the $13 million mark for this project. We received $6,750,000 for that. And we are closely reaching our limit of 5.75 that we had allowed for bonding. I cannot in good conscience continue to do this knowing everything that went down with this. And Mayor, I will agree with you. People do want that area developed. They want it developed with things that are going to bring people into downtown. I don't think that is a new neighborhood. But I will say that if a neighborhood does go down there, it's not going to be affordable housing, which everyone tends to want. And there are just so many people that are not in favor of this project that I cannot believe that this body continues to prop it up every single time there's something like this. And I am not saying that to offend anyone on this board. I just cannot believe, knowing what the community says about this project, that we would continue to vote for increased funding for it, and my vote's no.
Commissioner Unger?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldridge?
I would like to explain my vote. This is really, really hard because I still have questions, but I agree with Commissioner Thompson in regards to continuing to put more money into this. However, I also see the fact that there was not a contingency built in. Maybe that was a good thing, Mayor. Maybe that was a bad thing. Maybe it is saving us money. So I see this as a contingency. However, I would have rather made my vote after we had a discussion with them to make sure that they're able to work together, because I think a lot of this could have been maybe even avoided some of it if there was more communication in regarding the companies communicating with each other on their pours and saying, hey, this is what we have, what are you guys doing? I think it's communication. So I'm not okay with it, but I definitely see that it is a contingency, and to me, just as we built with anything else, there's also contingency. At least 10% on some things, just as I stated for the Humane Society, for the animal shelter. You know, there was a contingency. And so the only reason I'm saying yes to this is because there needs to be a contingency area for this. However, we need to sit down and see where we're at and what this is going to look like moving forward, and where other issues are going to come up, possible issues in the future, so we can know what that contingency looks like. Because if they didn't put a contingency in to begin with, I don't understand why they're putting a contingency in now if they're asking for a certain amount of money. So that was the only thing that really concerns me. So I will vote yes to keep this project going, because we do need to complete this project, but I think we need to follow up on meetings to make sure communication is done. And we have to put ourselves in better settings to make sure that we're not keeping our checkbook open and continuous, because we cannot keep putting money into a parking garage that will not bring in any money to our community, and it's becoming a bigger price tag for us, regardless of what we want or perceive may be coming in our downtown area behind that area. Oh, I did say yes. Sorry. I make sure you caught
got it. Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Yes. And that motion carries. That's the end of action items. We'll move on to unfinished business. Anybody have anything?
I had a couple of
Commissioner
things.
Waters.
I'm sorry, God, did you have your hand up?
No, thank you.
I had a couple of unfinished items. One that I wanted to bring up was in regards, first of all, congratulations to Judd being promoted to Director of IT. So appreciate, our in-house employees who do so much.
Or our condolences.
Right. But liking seeing our community and our staff and teams move up in our area and continue to serve our city. And I just wanted to bring up, just to make sure with HR, that we're really concentrating on our HR process and what we want in hiring, what we're wanting in regards to our team members who are wanting to elevate in their careers and move into other positions, to make sure that we're taking the care that we need and looking at their applications as we're moving forward, as Judd did. Because we had one, Miss Vicki Jones, who was an amazing employee here at the city. And I saw her the other day as she was leaving and finished signing her papers and everything as she went and accepted another position somewhere else. I'm hoping we have an exit process and an interview with her on that. But the concern was that she's applied for many positions here at the city and has not been elevated into any of those positions. I'm not sure exactly what those positions are, so I won't go into that. But knowing Vicki and knowing the many people that loved her and the awesome work she's done here for the city, I'm not sure why that did not occur. So not to say that it should or it should not have occurred, but I would like us to take in consideration what pathways each of our team members want to be in their positions, and maybe that's something, a conversation that needs to be open with the HR director, that if they want to move from their position, what does the scope look like in their position and how do they get there? And are we providing extra training or education to get them there? Because some are getting moved and some are not. And so I would like everyone to have the opportunity, as Judd did, across our community in our city as well. So I just wanted to take that in consideration because it was brought to my attention last week. That was my first unfinished business.
I think I had new business there.
Oh, that was my unfinished.
It wasn't unfinished, that's new business.
What was I'm sorry.
That's new business.
I mean,
Is there any unfinished business?
I have unfinished business.
Yeah.
That was unfinished business. That was on the consent
We have
calendar.
not talked about that in a
I'm
prior
sorry.
meeting.
Oh, that was we just moved Judd up. That was the conversation there, so that would be unfinished. Broadway Bridge, we just had our public meeting on that. And so the public meeting was set up a little bit differently, with folks coming in, filling out those, comment forms on what we feel on Broadway Bridge and how we go. I would just like to know if we've had conversations with those with KYTC or anyone in that area, so we can start putting numbers with some of those designs that we saw, so our community can have a little bit more knowledge. I stayed the whole entire time. And a lot of our community was asking for more numbers and they couldn't give us numbers. So I'm not sure why the financial part was not brought to that public meeting instead of prolonging that, because I think that that's a concern for our community on what that increase is for. So for unfinished business, I would really appreciate us to get those numbers so we can get those out to the community as quickly as possible, so we know what we're dealing with and what that increase is, or whether or not we need to move on with demolition with the Broadway Bridge. So that was my number 2 for unfinished. Does anyone else have anything before I have unfinished business more? Sorry, I wanted to.
You got the floor.
Okay. Okay, I'm used to being cut off, so sorry. Fixed contract ordinances. So in regards to this, as reading over the weekend in regards to this contract that we've been talking with Mr. Knowles, I would like to see if there's a way that we can communicate with Attorney Milam on looking forward and trying to get more of our contracts and our process procedures more upfront, where they are geared into not coming back and asking for more money. Because in contracts, if you're over 10% or 20%, they're supposed to go out for rebid. Certain contracts can go out for rebid on certain things. But I know this particular contract is not there because this is the contract. But I think that we do need to look into that so that this does not continue down the road, that we're a little bit more key on our contracts. So that was the one I gathered this weekend. My other unfinished business would be the parks rate. So it was on the consent calendar. And we approved that on the consent calendar. I would like to see, if possible, for the director of parks and how we can gather some information maybe in this upcoming year from the parks area, the pool area, on what the usage is from outside communities and our county folks. I know in other communities and other places and other states and different things, the county, they're a little bit more increased because these are all city parks. So I'd like to see what the numbered usage is, comparing that, and if that's something that we could look forward to moving into next year, on what the city usage is for city parks, what the county is, and what outside communities are in regards to our pool and certain park areas, if we can keep that data for the 2024 year, so we can use that moving forward in the 2024 budget, as well as upcoming fee schedules, and how we can maybe increase and gather some more income for our parks. Also, unfinished business is our RFP that we sent out. I think that deadline is coming up for the farmers market area. We've been waiting on this, wanting this piece of property for a long time. We've now received it. We've put out an RFP. I'm not sure if anything has been received at this time. I know we still have a few more days on that. Are we aware of any that have been submitted? I know we can't discuss in detail, but
I'm not actually sure, because we don't usually check along the way. I don't, but so we'd actually have to take a look at that. I'm not sure if any have been received.
December 5th.
Is it December 5th?
I think
I thought it was the 5th. So it's
Okay,
coming
so
up
we've got
pretty
a
soon,
little-
within a week or so, and I
Sure.
know it was a fast turnaround for such a big project, which really
Right.
concerned me, but I was just wondering if we were able to have some turnarounds on different companies, you know, if people are actually submitting that, or is that something that may be coming back in our early December meeting to look at if we need to hold off on that, or if we may need to be
Right.
submitting again because of the holidays and such a quick turnaround, because it was
Right.
about 30 days or so.
That's right.
We should have an updated work session on that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. My last unfinished business is in regards to our InterWrap grant. I'd asked for an update, and that wasn't put on our calendar, however, greatly to the State Journal for putting it in the newspaper and following up on some issues. I just wanted to see if we could, if there is any updates that we could get for our next work session in regards to the grant, because I think there's a lot of issues going on and we don't have all the information. It's really concerning to me because this project was brought to us to help our community obtain jobs that were at the median salary level, and we continue to push this project back for whatever reasons. I think there's a lot of finger pointing, and I just don't want the finger pointing. I just want this to pick up and help our community in the way that is. I know I've spoke to at least 5 to 6 people that were interested in this program, and they've been working little side jobs and trying to hang on and hope this would be able to move forward. And it's just not getting there yet. And now, as talking to some KCDC board members, following up with them, I've learned that, you know, it seems now that the project is almost having to take almost 2 steps back to be able to move forward. So at least we still have the train on the tracks. My concern, Mayor, I know that you sit on that board as well for the Board of Commissions, as well as we place people on that board as well to represent our city. But there were some concerning things in the newspaper that just really concerned me in regards like the removal of the KCDC president from the grant. I was unaware that this was going to happen, and I've not really been upkept on all this information. But I think in regards to, I think Mr. Rich Rosen is, he was there and he also rescinded and said no on that. And I didn't understand when reading the article and following up with board members on why KCDC board, while KCDC Terry Bradshaw would be removed from the InterWrap grant, when technically the things that was shared in the newspaper, as well as all of the information that I received from open records from KCDC meetings, has really shown that Terry Bradshaw has really been sharing with us for months and months, saying that some things were being done illegally, there needs to be bids, and all of these things, and now they're coming to sort of fester now, and we've actually, there was a vote, and at least 2, maybe 3 city people voted to have her taken off when she's actually been preparing some of this information. So I'm a little confused on it. So maybe if we can take that information, gather that information, and get that to the board so we really know what's going on. I know bits and pieces, which I'm doing an open records request on the conversation that happened with our federal people to speak with them. I don't know what's really up, but I have heard that there were illegal things going on in regards to the breakdown of how the money was spent. You know, you're looking at $100,000 per person. $45,000 of that was going to go to the salary of a student, and then $55,000 to InterWrap. Being able to understand that so we know what's going on, and we can also feed these back to people that want to apply for this program, or if this program is going to move forward, whether that's not with CVS or maybe another pharmacy, I'm not sure. I also spoke with Clay Hewitt, who is also on that board today, and he had some reassurance that maybe we wouldn't have to go with one company. Maybe there are several companies that maybe we can discuss on, maybe 5 people going to this company or 5 people going to this company versus a company taking on maybe 25 people. I thought that was actually a good idea, and it also puts people in different cybersecurity areas, whether that's healthcare, engineering, or whatever that may be. I think that that was a good idea after speaking with him. But I just think in some of this leadership, I think that our eyes have been covered, and we've not been given all the information. So I would just appreciate in your leadership and serving on KCDC, if you could gather the information and get that back to our board so we can fully support this program that you've brought forward to us, and get this activated in our community with Kentucky State University. It would just really be great. And I just want this program to work out. But it's still moving. It's not off the tracks. I think there's been some hiccups. But I just want this program because I know it's going to help our community. It's going to help our tax base. And I know there's people that really want to be a part of this program. So I just would like an update from someone. I know we have an acting chair as well. It's been really difficult in speaking with the active chair. Maybe we can get a chair that can communicate all this information, a chair that can communicate in a manner of speaking to officials and other people in regards to gathering information. I think that we need to move forward and maybe looking into asking for a chair, or maybe we can ask for people to be replaced if they're not serving in a way that we need. So.
Okay, a couple of things. They do have their own board and they have their own meetings, and we can all attend or watch those meetings where they do give the updates because, as you know, the city commission is not administering this grant. In hindsight, perhaps we should have been, and I'm not sure if we would have received the grant if not have going through KCDC. The whole reason we approached KCDC with this idea is that we were advised that it may look better being a joint city-county thing. So, having said that, we did lose some of the control over this, and I would imagine that the decision that was made to remove leadership from being the program contact, we may see a change in how quickly this gets through the system. And I think we need to be careful. It's in the words that we use when we're talking about companies that are our partners, that we want to be our partners in business development, in job recruitment that we would not otherwise get, and that are willing to take a chance on coming to Frankfort when we use words like illegal and in a public setting, because that's, none of that, it's all baseless. And everything that I've seen that have been brought up, not a dollar has been spent with any company in that grant, and we still have time to administer it. So yes, the original partner that was selected, because there was no indication from KCDC leadership that a procurement process needed to be followed until later on in the process, where we made aware that KCDC does have a policy for that. And once we made the program manager aware at the Department of Labor, they said, well, you need to follow your procurement process. So that makes sense now that we know that we had a procurement process with KCD. So point is, I think it had to take a step back. But again, those are things that should have been known, made available to the board at the time. They weren't. The money's still set aside for the program. That we're still within the time frame to complete it. And I think it's still going to be a great program for the city of Frankfort, and it's going to help us train workers to do jobs in industries that are growing, 21st century jobs with higher than average salaries. And the best part is most of these are going to be remote, and we're going to get occupational taxes for people that are working from their homes. No additional land needed. So it's a great program, and we want to see it to fruition. Commissioner Thompson, did you want to add?
No, I was just going to say, Ms. Guster is here if we wanted to get at least the KCDC perspective. I know you're on that as an ex officio member, but she could speak to some of the questions that...
I don't know if we want to get... I mean, this is all in new business right now. I think if we'd give her a chance to prepare for something like this, and maybe even bring in other board members or the executive director.
Yeah. Well, I think that's... I think that that's perfect. That's why I asked for an update, for the right people to be at the table, to come forward and present, because we get Penny, and then one day we get Terry Bradshaw, and then we talk about Kim, and then so to me, it's just being able to put things together. And I know when you mention the word illegal, whether or not that sounds good or not, but that has came up in a conversation, several conversations, but it also leads back to how we are communicating through emails and how we're bringing information, because I believe that Terry Bradshaw has stood before us and told us there needed to be a bid process. She's also told us that things that we were not doing was incorrect, and that is through email that I've received through my open records request. So I think we also need to be very cautious of when we're saying things that are not completely true that have been said, and that's why I just want to make sure. If I can get clarity on where we're at with this, or if there's one of us on the board that needs to help and assist with this, I agree with you. I think it's a project that would be great for our community on many areas, and I think that we need to move it forward. And if there's any one of us on this committee that can help
be able to steer it in the right direction, I think it's great. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, because obviously some of us don't have it all, and that's why I was doing open records, because I could not get a complete overall or an overview from our acting chair.
And I'm also available for a conversation anytime you want to call. So, any other new business? Commissioner Unger?
Can I start with old business?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if maybe in the December work session, if staff could present the findings that we received from DBL, the outside counsel, in regards to the claims that were made against about the parcels downtown. And I don't know if I need a motion. Can I?
It either needs to be in closed session or
or we waive confidentiality
on the work
regarding
session.
the findings. We can put it on the work session, but it will be one of two things. Either we waive confidentiality, and I know a lot of the information they evaluated has been made public, or we discuss an executive session.
You want the community to know.
Oh yeah, I want the community to hear that information from our outside counsel.
Yeah, we do.
So
I do too.
should I make a motion of sorts right now?
Make a motion, or
I would
just
prefer, if we're going to put it on a work session agenda, I'd definitely, and talk about it publicly, I'd definitely like that.
and just say, is anybody opposed to
Yeah.
putting it on an open?
That's fine.
Is anybody opposed to that? No.
So my direction is to put it on the work session for open discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I do have new business, if it's okay to move on.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have unfinished? Anybody?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I think it's good timing that we've had two community members mention housing in their citizens' comments. I've brought up before that I would like to see if there's something the city can do to encourage property owners to take housing vouchers. I'm wondering, I had a good conversation today with our new assistant city manager, Andrew, and I'm wondering if maybe we could take a look at Georgetown, who has hired an affordable housing person. They do split that salary between their city and county. That person is going to help them figure out grants and tax incentives for developers to build affordable housing options. Sorry. I'm wondering if that's something we could discuss. We could also discuss, and it's something that I've talked to others about, maybe there's a task force that could be put together, because we obviously have a lot of community members that really care about this and want to see some action. So it's something that I've talked to a lot of people about recently, and I'm interested in discussing in more detail. So if you all are interested, I'd like to see it on a future agenda to discuss, because I think there's a lot of options out there, and we're currently not really going after any of them. So I don't know if you want a motion for that, to try to have staff look into options. I'm happy to do that. And hear what others think about it.
I think maybe let staff look into it, give us what those options are.
We just need a discussion.
Just from discussing that, I want everyone to, just like it is with our public funding of charities, we want to be very careful of either enticing or forcing people who own private property what they can and should or can't do with their property, especially when it comes to accepting federal monies, lowering one person, I think it was a well-intended statement about lowering the requirement or not discriminating based on income. We are then, number one, I don't think that's constitutional, but number two, I think that is delving into government-controlled socializing of housing requirements, and that concerns me. But I do agree there are probably some housing options out there that we need to look into. I wish the market would take care of it itself. It clearly hasn't done that over the last few years after COVID, so I'm totally open for that discussion. I think it's well placed and well timed.
I just would like to add, definitely support affordable housing, and I had a meeting with Russ Salzman and another developer in regards to some projects in Louisville that actually is getting some of the money that you're talking about and helping, and it does take, us putting up dollars as well, but if that's what we're needing, we're going to have to do that in order to get it here, because doing affordable housing and developing it just doesn't really work unless there's the funding, and I think that since we want it, we're going to have to go get it and put our money where our mouth is. But I think like you said, there's a lot of money out there for it. We just have to maybe even form a task force to purposely go get that for our community and where that goes. And I think the city has a lot of property that we could even say, hey, we want to dedicate this piece of property to affordable housing, which will then help our community and bring in a developer to do that. So definitely supportive of it. I don't know if that was a motion or not, but
If I need to make one, I will.
I think this is and these are things that we've talked about loosely, and
Yeah.
we just haven't created a task force. And I know we've talked about a CDBG grant for housing. April 1st, I think, is our deadline. But I think that's something we're probably, because we haven't done that. We haven't done a CDBG in a long time. So,
I have one new business, Mayor.
Anybody? You finished, Commissioner Unger, Commissioner Waters? How about? Go ahead.
Sorry. My new business is that I'd like to make a motion to bring forth in our work session a full discussion with the KCDC Director, Penny, and any board members in regards to the INTERAP to bring this board completely up to date and knowing where we're leading with this and what we can do as a board to help get us where we need to be. As a discussion item.
Second.
Sorry, discussion item.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Just so December work is going to be a pretty big one, just so you all know. Let me look at this.
Call the question.
No, let me look. Okay. No, it's going to be a long one, though. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Kyle's opposed, I think.
No.
Oh,
I just want to be called on next. That's all.
Commissioner Thompson.
Under new business, it's my understanding, City Manager Monroe, that we have received a letter from the county regarding the parks situation for youth sports.
Correct.
For next year. Can you update us at the next meeting about what that plan is? I think Sean is working on that plan at this point.
Yeah, as soon as I received the letter from the judge concerning not being able to use the field to Capitol View, I got with Sean and we're working on a plan to figure out how we're going to operate spring sports with the number of children that we have.
That being the case, I think now is the opportunity and the time, City Manager Monroe and Attorney Milan, that we put the Capitol View Park back on the discussion table of things to discuss with the state. I know I was asked to have my patience and get through a couple other things, so I'm asking for us to revisit that because I think we're going to need it, to be quite honest. And as I've always said, I hate to spend any more money there until it comes under city-owned control. The other thing I would like an update on is, and I think we talk about Parcel A in the RFP process. I have a concern, not the way the RFP was written necessarily, but if there is two things. If there is a convention center, conference center, or something of that nature built, I want to make sure that the city itself is not getting in the business of running a conference or convention center. I think we're all on the same page there, but I don't want to be stuck holding the bag on that issue. And the additional question about that is, I would like an update on, or a financial update, and I don't think our finance department would have this, but maybe they would, of the taxes that have been collected over the last few years for the convention center that I think tourism is holding. I'd like to know.
We hold them.
Oh, we hold them in a special,
We collect all of those taxes, and then what was supposed to go to the convention center previously, it's just being held in escrow that we're holding it now. We continue to collect those.
Okay.
I can get you.
can you give us the number on that? Thank you. That's all that I had, Mayor, thank you.
All right, any other new business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, see you next time. We're adjourned.
Keep raising your hand.